your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement. This is the Atheist Manifesto. From Answer Media, this is the Atheist Manifesto. I am your host, Callie Wright, joined once again by my co-host, Ari Stillman. What is up, Ari?
That's Dr. Stillman to you.
That's not the case.
But I said it is, and you have to believe me because we take people's word for it on their identities, and I identify as a doctor.
God, I guess I can't argue with that.
You can't. Checkmate, SJW.
Oh, God. Okay.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like, your intros are usually funny. They don't often stop me in my tracks like that. That's good stuff. So first up this week, we're going to have yet another discussion that I feel is probably long overdue for the show. There's lots and lots of discourse about autism in the world, in the social justice community, and most of it I find is awful, according to my friends who are actually autistic. So I figured, hey, let's bring some actual autistic folks on the show to talk about why it's wrong, how we can do better, and just do some sort of general education. So we have my dear friend Tony. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And my dear friend Elizabeth. Welcome to the show, friend.
Thank you very much.
Let's get the terminology down first, because there was this whole thing. I posted a Facebook status basically just talking about how I don't know any autistic people who like Autism Speaks, and that, we should be listening, so on and so forth. And someone came on the status and was like, it's not autistic person, it's person with autism. And this person, by the way, was not autistic, but thought that they could speak for autistic people because they had to shout who was. So, either of you, whoever wants to jump in, can you talk about how you prefer it to be and why?
Yeah, I can, actually, because I have a lot of feelings about this. So basically, autistic is a identity-first identifier. Person with autism is pretty much, in my opinion, just a way for people to remind themselves that autistic people are people first. But when
as if that's a thing people have to be reminded of constantly. Like,
yeah, you'd be surprised. You would be like super.
You would be alarmed.
Yeah.
But also, like, whenever you use person with autism, it's kind of like an add-on. Like,
it separates the person from the autism. It's right. Like you want to keep the person because that's desirable, but the autism is gross and awful, and like you feel like you're doing the person a disservice by mixing them with their autism, because clearly that is a bad thing. And the ultimate end goal is person is good, but the autism is gross and sticky, and we want to separate them, and it boils down to cure culture.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't say person with gayness or person with blackness or something like that, because that's othering the part of your identity. And
especially with the neurological condition, it isn't separable from who I am.
Yeah.
It's how my brain is structured. It's how I process things. It's not like I have a physical disability that is way more separate from me than my autism. Because my physical disability is something that's going on with my body, and it's how I interact with the world in certain aspects, yes, but my autism is how I think and feel, and in my brain, and where my personhood is housed is structured in an autistic manner. And to try and separate that from me actually winds up removing a good chunk of who I am and what I'm doing from the conversation.
Autism is like the goggles that you see the world through. And if you take those goggles away, you're not autistic anymore. You're not the same person.
It's like the difference between running a Macintosh computer and a PC computer. They're just, one of them's way more common and a lot more things interface with it well. And but that doesn't mean it's the right way to be computing and that the Macs need to be fixed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depending on who you ask with software design, though.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah.
So before we go too deep down this road, let's talk for a minute about exactly what autism is and isn't, because I feel like that's a thing that people probably get wrong a lot. I think people probably have a very wrong idea about what autism even is in the first place. So can we talk for a second about what actually is autism and how is it defined?
Absolutely. I'm good at this. I know this bit.
Me too. I have it written down in front of me too.
Oh, sweet. Well, what do you have?
I have autism, a developmental disorder comprised of several different symptoms that include, but are not limited to, delayed or absent speech via mouth parts, inability or issues with forming personal relationships with others, and impaired empathy as well as cognitive issues. It is not a mental illness, and we actually can have comorbidities with mental illnesses. For example, I am autistic, bipolar, have depression, anxiety, and have recently crossed agoraphobia off the list through therapy. That's what I got.
Cool. That's actually, I'm really glad you brought up that definition, because I that's a good starting point for what I want to say. That is, as we understand autism in the context of a developmental disability. And I want to bring up the problematicness of the DSM in this particular conversation. Because what autism is, chemically, is it's a different organization system for your brain that prioritizes certain cues over other cues. Autism prioritizes sensory cues over social cues.
Yep.
At the core of it, that's about all we can say about autism without bringing in social biases. And the DSM is written by and for neurotypical, autistic people. Autistic being the opposite of autism, an autistic. And so it's saying that it's disordered and broken. And that's not true. My brain is, an autistic brain functions the way an autistic brain should. It's that the society around us has built different priorities into our interactions that make it a disorder. Yes, it emphasizes speech is delayed, but what's not happening isn't a delay of speech. It's the prioritizing of other areas of the brain being built at that time.
Exactly. Like, I try to tell people that, like, in regards to my child, he can answer yes or no questions, but he is literally 7 years old, and he was, like, reading at a college level at 4, and he was, like, learning. He knows, like, 20 languages now. But, yeah, his brain is prioritizing the things that he enjoys over holding conversations, and that's totally fine. Like, it doesn't, or even
he enjoys the things his brain is developing because that's easier for him, and conversations are difficult and shitty, and I wouldn't really want to prioritize practicing on that either.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, well, and that was, one question that I have, because, it's autism spectrum disorder is typically how it's referred to. And so my question is it even really proper to define it as a disorder? Because from what I understand, hearing from people who are actually autistic, is that really all it is a different way of thinking and a different way of interacting with the world. And do we call it a disorder just because it's different, therefore in some ways maladaptive sometimes? Or is it based on the person? Like, how does that work?
Well, that just goes into what your definition of a disorder is, and that's where you start getting down the rabbit hole of disability politics, because what is disabled? What is disordered? What does wrong mean? And it's really a rabbit hole, and it depends on how deep you want to go into it. Because if you define disability and disorder as something that makes it difficult for you to function at the level of your peers, then absolutely, in a lot of ways, is autism a disorder. However, I would also argue that allism is equally as crippling of a disorder as autism, because you guys cannot grasp a lot of the things I've had a grasp on since infancy.
Right. It's just that there are more of us, therefore that's what's seen as normal.
Exactly.
Basically. Yeah, that's
The concept of the idiot savant, actually, is that there's some things that I just can't do and I'm bad at, and some things that I'm amazing at. And from my point of view, all of you guys look like a bunch of idiot savants too, because there's a lot of things that are very crucial to my life that you cannot do. Like, for example, I'm having to teach my wife how to stim and the benefits of stimming, and like her life is improving in leaps and bounds because she's learning how to stim. But
explain stimming for me.
Stimming it's a sensory seeking behavior. I was specifically referring to fine motor skill stimming. You know, the fidget cube that went viral for a while there. That would be a stim toy. It is something to fidget with your hands, to do small fine motor motions to get that part of your brain occupied so you can focus better on what you're doing. And it's a very, very useful tool for people with sensory processing disorders, because if you're doing, like I'm stimming right now, I have a Tangle toy and I'm just rotating the pieces and feeling the texture on my fingers, and that's stopping me from doing things like messing with my mic and accidentally making noises or wanting to go elsewhere on the computer. It's an important part of how I process, to occasionally, when I need to focus, to fill up the brain space that would otherwise be left sitting idle with small fidgeting.
So it's what most people call fidgeting. It just has a deeper purpose and a deeper meaning for folks who are autistic in a lot of cases. Is that kind of it?
That's
kind of it. For
but autistic people can benefit from stimming too.
Yeah, like shaking your leg when you're sitting down and you're just like,
or clicking a pen.
Is great. That's a form of stimming.
It's funny you say that. I'm literally doing that right now.
Yeah, I'm playing
I'm doing that too. I forgot.
We're all
my
stimming.
squirrely thing at my house, and I'm like shaking my hands because I need to have my hands busy, and I forgot it. So.
Yeah. So what does the diagnostic process look like? Like how is, when you go to a professional, like what do they look for?
Oh boy. Okay. I got this. I have got this.
Here's this can of worms I've opened.
All over the desk.
I know for children better, but Anthony, if you have something for adults, that'd be super helpful, because I was diagnosed as a child, but I don't remember anything. But I remember how my son was diagnosed.
Talk about that process. I'd like to hear that.
The diagnostic process is mostly done for children because autism in adults is woefully understudied. The focus in autism is on these poor children who are broken and not growing up right, and all of us autistic adults who are completely functional now that our brains have finished growing and we've caught up to neurotypical people. We're all sitting around like, what the fuck ever? And
yeah, pretty much.
It's really hard to diagnose an autistic adult. I actually am not legally diagnosed as autistic, despite the fact that every autism specialist I know has been able to figure out I'm autistic either within 2 sentences or, in one case, from across the room.
Yeah, my current therapist, she whenever I first met with her, she was kind of looking at me funny, and she was like, "Are you sure you're just bipolar? Are you sure you only have anxiety?" And I was like, "Okay, well, since we're doing this, I was diagnosed kind of at 9 with autism." And she was like, "What do you mean, kind of?" And when
I was tested, I came up 1 point shy on the test for qualifying as having autism, and you can't see my huge air quotes. And it was considered this huge relief. It's like, oh, you're just on the side where we can pretend you're normal. And in reality, I was actually being raised in an abusive situation where I wasn't allowed to display my autistic traits, and instead I'd learned that I need to please authority figures by pretending to be allistic and neurotypical because my autism traits are bad. And so when my parents took me to get tested, I was like, okay, these are important people, so I can't do these things that are bad and stab myself in the foot for a diagnosis, which is a mixed blessing.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, you were talking about your therapist earlier. I'd like to hear the rest of that story for sure.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Where was I with this? Oh, yeah. Okay. Whenever my parents went to go take me to be diagnosed, the doctor, and I have a feeling that he was super duper duper new to the diagnosing thing, because he goes, well, she has classic autism symptoms, but girls don't get autism, so we'll say that she has Tourette's.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like,
Wow.
Which
I
is
didn't
not
have
even
no idea
the
what was
same
happening.
thing at all.
I know. I had no idea what was happening. I was 9, and
What's great is a lot of autism symptoms are considered standard parts of being a proper female when you are a AFAB person, because you're quiet all the time. Well, that's good because women are demure.
yes,
Autism is woefully undiagnosed in women because of this bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm compulsively obedient. So, if somebody tells me, or, somebody in an authority position tells me, hey, go do this, I'm like, okay, and I go do it, not even, realizing that I can say no. So
because you can't say no to authority figures. That's how a lot of the brains work sometimes.
Yeah, and it's, part of, quote-unquote, the rules. You always have to obey authority figures, so I was
it's the structure.
Okay. Yeah.
And autistic people rely an awful lot on structure and logical rules to get through situations that are otherwise confusing to us.
Exactly. And then when the rules change, it's super confusing, because sometimes it feels like autistic people will change the rules on us, at the last second. Oh, this applies to this situation, but you're doing it this way, so that doesn't work. You're in trouble. How dare you?
Oh my God, yeah. It's a really wild game dealing with autistic people.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So one observation that I've seen is that there are a lot of trans and non-binary folk who are autistic. And my first thought is that, well, there are a lot of trans and non-binary people. Therefore, some of them are likely to be autistic, because those are both things that happen to human beings from time to time. But I mean, I've heard from a lot of different people that there seems to be an actual correlation between that. So in your experience, to your knowledge, is that real? And if it is, why do you think it is?
A non-binary gender identity is considered a symptom of autism.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It is. If you feel that you are half boy, half girl, that's how it's written down. If you believe that you are half boy, half girl, that's a symptom of autism.
Yeah.
I have never heard this before. This is amazing.
Yeah. It's really wild, because even girls who are diagnosed as autistic, they'll say, oh, she has a male brain. Luckily that has been completely disproved. Nobody uses that anymore, I'm hoping. So
people still use it. If it got used once, there's some old codger who hasn't let it go.
Oh yeah, probably, right? But yeah, we don't really pick up on
this. This is holistic people we're talking about. They don't learn new ideas well.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. They're pretty rigid.
So is it because, for example, people who are assigned female at birth are expected to be more emotional, whereas, autistic people might not be so much on that side, it might be more on the logical side, so they're seen as more masculine. But then on the other side, if you're assigned male at birth and you have those same symptoms, would that also, I don't know if that would carry over the same way.
I can help you. I think I can help you here.
Okay.
Autism prioritizes your sensory input over your social input.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that, if you consider a white supremacist, male supremacist society with the notion of binary genders, there are things that men are good at, and one of them is leadership and people skills, and not being, don't cry, that's a girl thing, all that jazz. If you look at what is expected of men, and then you look at what autism makes difficult, those are very, very similar groups.
Mm.
And if you look at what is expected of women, and if you look at how autism makes you behave, again, very similar groups of characteristics, because women just know things. Autistic people also frequently just know things with our amazing intuition. In reality, we're picking up on a different set of cues that all of you autistic people can't pick up on and analyze in real time the way we can. But
Right.
so how it gets interpreted is that the women are not autistic. They're just women. But the men are autistic, and autism is holding them back, and it is a terrible thing.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Hey, Anthony, have you heard of indigo children? Because I got some shit to say about that.
I've heard of this
Indigo
as well.
children. I have not heard about indigo children, but I am holding on to a thought about moms of autism.
Okay, so
We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about Autism Speaks.
Oh,
So,
yes. Thank you.
pretty much in the pagan community, instead of autistic people, they have indigo children. We can see spirits. We can pick up on things that
Changelings.
other people don't pick up on. We're magical and we're super special, unicorn individuals.
Changelings. That's the concept of changelings. Sorry, you hit on my nerd you hit on my nerd core for a second there.
No, I know about
The
changelings.
concept
No,
of
it's not-
changelings is a child who is abducted by Fae at around like age 1 or 2 when autism symptoms, air quotes, set in. And they're a child who looks exactly like your child, but knows things that they shouldn't know and behaves strangely. Yeah, I am very familiar with this concept, and I
Oh, yeah.
I personally find it kind of empowering because, like, yes, I'm absolutely a mythical being with powers beyond your ken.
You better watch out or I'll something phase something. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that one.
I know a few things about white people. It's something, and and they're all afraid of hexes.
Yeah. White people hate curses.
You know, I've heard. I asked this question, or somebody asked this question on the Facebook thread I was talking about earlier, and one of the responses was that autistic people don't generally, they're not generally as affected by social norms as other people are, so therefore gender roles don't feel as rigid, so it's a little easier to step outside. Does that seem like it makes sense?
That sounds exactly correct. It's none of the gender roles objectively don't make sense. And I've never felt like I had any reason to follow them. And that's honestly a lot of where my non-binary identity comes from, is because why the fuck are certain interests male and certain interests female? And what does it could have very well be described as not understanding the social cues of gender and not giving a single shit about the social cues of gender.
Because it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, why can't I have an interest in cars just because I was born with a vagina? You know, I don't want to learn baking. I didn't want to be a parent. I mean, I'm a parent now, but growing up, I was like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like fun. You know, it sounds like fun. Video games. Video games are a lot of fun. You know, it also sounds great. Camping. Camping is amazing. Oh, I'm not supposed to be interested in those things? Too fucking bad I am.
Because a lot of what socializes someone as one gender or another is social pressure to conform to these gender roles. Like, you don't naturally not have an interest in cars. You're told you're discouraged socially repeatedly from having an interest in cars because of your biology. And if you're allistic, you're more likely to go, okay, this is bad. The people in my social circle are telling me not to do this. I won't do this. If you're autistic, you're likely not to hear that at all and just get right into cars.
Yep, because you're like, I don't see why not. This doesn't make sense. You people don't make any sense at all. I'm going to go mess with cars.
I'm sure there are probably a million stories surrounding this, so I'll ask you to be as brief as possible while still being real. I'm interested if you can tell some specific stories about the way being autistic affects the way that you interact with the world and people around you. Some, because we've been speaking kind of in generalities up to this point, but I'm curious about more specifics. Like if there's a certain thing that you can point to that's like, you know, like this is definitively a different experience for me and the way that I do things versus someone who is autistic.
So there's a concept in autism called your special interest. And it's yes. And it's that one thing that you know everything about. And what it is can change throughout your life. Right now, my special interest is Overwatch. You know how there's like this concept of a normal amount of emotional investment in a thing?
Right.
Then there's this entirely different amount, which is my personal emotional investment in Overwatch. So a way that my autism has very much affected my social interaction, like, is whenever someone mentions Overwatch, there's this, like, override switch that goes off in my brain. And I know, logically, they don't need to know a panel-by-panel description of my favorite comic from the Overwatch lore. I'm probably annoying them. I don't need to go into a diatribe about what this particular character's voice line implies. Here I am anyway. I can't really stop myself. I'm still going. It's been 45 minutes and they just wanted to do something else. But no, I really need to explain the Shimadas. And it just,
oh my God.
And it takes over, and it absolutely overwrites my ability to function, air quotes, normally in conversation, because there's like one or two trigger subjects that I will not shut up about.
I've heard that referred to as the info dump.
Yeah, it is indeed the info dump.
And Elizabeth, you have one?
So aside from the special interest thing, which, by the way, mine is the Fallout video game series. Ask me anything, and I probably can tell you about it. It's also survivalist stuff. Cool. You know, you can make flour out of acorns. I find that incredibly fascinating. But moving on painfully.
I find it telling that you almost got sidetracked into your special interest.
I was just about to say that.
I'm trying super hard to stay
I, too, almost got sidetracked, so I feel this in my heartbeat.
Okay, so I actually have a couple of things written down. Oh, yeah. There's facial expressions, actually.
Oh, yeah, the magical world where people are saying things with their face muscles, and I don't get it.
When I was younger and my mom would be yelling at me, she would get pissed off at me and tell me that my face I was looking at her like she was stupid. And I'm sitting there shaking and trying not to pee myself because I'm terrified because, you know, my mother's screaming at me and I feel bad for whatever it was that I did. And I'm not looking at her like she's stupid. I am trying to convey that, holy shit, I'm sorry. So I had to practice my facial expressions in the mirror, and I haven't quite got them right, so I just kind of have this blank expression on my face. It's called the resting bitch face, I guess. I have a couple of, like, go-to things to, like, convey my feelings, like, if I'm surprised.
You have to put effort into learning how to emote.
Yes, and it's obnoxious. Like, why can't you just take my word for what I'm feeling? Like,
and especially because the few things that come to us naturally as ways to emote, autistic people don't understand and specifically try to twist. Like, I happy stim. When I am excited and happy, I stim with my hands. And people look at that and they'll go, "You're distracted right now. You aren't paying attention." And I'm like, no, I am just so hyped that I cannot hold my hands still and I need to do something. But it's like the few things that we do that are, here's a physical thing that expresses how I am feeling, we're told we're doing them wrong.
Yeah, like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes about as much sense as divining things out of tea leaves. It's like, what the hell do you mean people's faces mean things?
Although it is pretty interesting to, like, watch. Like, I love to people watch. So I can, when I was younger, I got really...
They're like aliens.
I know. I feel like I'm in a nature documentary rather than like part of the population. Like, okay, look over there, and we'll have two people fighting. Maybe, I guess their arms are crossed. They could be cold, or they could be bored, or
apparently they could be sexually attracted to each other.
Yes, like it doesn't make sense to me. Another thing I have is displaced shame. And I actually learned a couple days ago that that's an autistic thing. I have ripped my pants in public. I have peed myself because I don't feel needing to go to the bathroom until like it's about to come out. So I have to like run. I have had period blood like dripping down my leg. And I'm just like, oh well, shit happens. But like I forgot toothpaste one time and I like lost my shit. I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Please forgive me, you know?
Oh God, that's what that is?
Yes, it's displaced shame or embarrassment.
Sounds like Tony had a breakthrough right here on the Gay Peace Manifesto.
Yeah,
I did not know I did that, but I do that? Holy shit.
We interrupt the show once again to shamelessly beg for your money. Being the physical manifestation of all that's wrong with society is a tough gig. This is something that Colette and A both understand on a very deep level. This week, their contributions will go to fund a fantastical machine that harnesses the kinetic energy from every Nazi punch that's thrown and use it to power our cities and our homes. Punch a Nazi for science. Punch a Nazi for our future. To find out more, head to patreon.com/thegaytheistmanifesto. Just one quick announcement before we get back into the show. We've been beating you over the head with it for months. We've been promoting it endlessly, and the time is finally nigh, my friends. In merely a week, ReasonCon will be upon us. I understand tickets are still available. If it's a place you can be, you totally should be. There'll be all kinds of great talks, music from Shelley Siegel, and more hugs than you could ever possibly handle. Please come hang out and say hi. Now back to the show.
So a big part of the reason why we're having this conversation now in particular is because April is coined as Autism Awareness Month, and we're getting into Autism Speaks now, so get ready to be angry. So this organization, Autism Speaks, I'm pretty sure they don't own Autism Awareness Month as far as I know, but they're kind of championing the whole cause. Yeah. And it's the most well-known autism charity. I believe it's U.S.-based. And I have seen a lot of my autistic friends coming out against Autism Speaks, especially recently with, it being Autism Awareness Month. So I was hoping you could clue our listeners into why autistic people in general don't particularly like this organization. Some of the problematic things that they do, maybe your thoughts on Autism Awareness Month in general, because I know that there's been some controversy about, like, do we even need an Autism Awareness Month, or should it be Autism Acceptance Month instead? Just your general blob of whatever you feel about Autism Speaks and Autism Awareness Month.
So,
just so you know, I'm making all of the proper disgust face shapes.
Oh, good.
My fingernails are like digging into the palms of my hands. I'm like, this makes me so mad. So pretty much autism awareness is kind of bullshit for me because have you heard of autism? Okay, you're aware. Now let's go into the stuff where you ask autistic people why they do what they do, what you can do to help them. Okay, that's acceptance. And, you do it. And part of the reason that really, really bugs me about Autism Speaks is I'm starting to get emotional.
You're fine. That is 100% allowed here.
The puzzle piece, the motherfucking blue puzzle piece. Okay, so that's not even their original logo. It was something else. I can't remember right now because I don't have it written down.
It was something less disgusting. I think.
Or equally, I can't remember. I'm probably going to hear about it because I'm going to talk about this to my other autistic friends and they're going to be like, you missed this chance to do that. I'm like, oh, well.
Don't worry, I got you.
The blue represents how autism is, quote unquote, more prominent in boys. Bullshit, for one. Two, the puzzle piece signifies how there's a missing piece from our brains, and you have to get it back and do this through ABA therapy and so on and so forth.
Oh, you're saying some bad words.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, explain that therapy for us. I'm not sure I know what it is, actually. A lot of listeners probably don't either.
So, like,
you're a blessing.
One thing you'll need to know is the guy who helped create ABA therapy also helped make conversion therapy. Like, that is the main thing that you need to keep in mind. He pretty much
it's the same concept as conversion therapy. It's like, here's how your brain works, and we want to fix this. But there's no way to actually fix how your brain works. So we're going to train you like a dog to have positive associations with behaviors we want, and we're going to abuse you when you... It's like, a lot of autistic people I know are triggered by M&Ms. Because ABA will reward you for behaving like a neurotypical with the most condescending shit ever of giving you an M&M. Because you're so stupid that you'll just get right into doing everything they want you to do because you're being given M&Ms. And then when you behave in ways that are autistic, they will train you out of it by abusing you, and sometimes electroshock therapy is involved. Also, a lot of the people in ABA are kidnapped. Sometimes legally adults kidnapped because if you're, air quotes, autistic enough, you can be someone's legal property. So they will kidnap your ass, send you somewhere against your will, and without your consent start training you like a dog so that you can be cured of your autism.
Jesus, fuck. And so that's the puzzle piece. That's their way of putting that.
That's what Autism Speaks funds.
Yes, and now, oh my God, this one pisses me off too. They regularly silence autistic adult voices and steal their
concepts, their work.
Right, they'll steal art pieces. They'll steal.
Autism Speaks has no autistic members on the board.
Yeah, not anymore. The one autistic board member resigned because they weren't listening to him.
Oh wow!
And like, this year, they co-opted, I don't think I'm using that word right. They pretty much stole the acceptance part. They're like, oh, well, we don't think vaccines cause autism anymore, so we're going to do the acceptance thing. Like,
and they're trying to save face, but I'm sorry, you've already paid for children to be electrocuted so they behave better.
Right. And like they even like during like in the ABA therapy, they'll actually like withhold something. Like they'll show you like, here's your special interest thing. You can't have it until you act the way that we want you to. And that's what kind of is holding me back from using the reward system in potty training my son.
Because you don't want to do that to another human being.
Yeah. And honestly, if he never learns how to use the bathroom, that's fine with me. I have plenty of friends who need help.
They make diapers. It's okay, you know?
Yeah, like, it's really not that big a deal to me.
It's a little bit more financially expensive because adult diapers are expensive because supply and demand, and capitalism is inherently ableist and an entirely different spiel, but, like, it's okay if he doesn't learn that.
Yeah, if you can't do something, then you can't fucking do something.
And you shouldn't put yourself through a lot of stress and emotional turmoil just to behave the way other people expect you and want you to behave. Right.
Yeah. And like if you keep doing it, you're going to go into burnout. And the medical field calls it regression, but it's not regression, it's burnout, because we are so tired of having to constantly act holistic and constantly
because it's a performance, and they seem to think that they are like fixing us because it's how shock therapy looks like it's working, because people have learned not to express things in a way that gets them caught.
Mm-hmm.
And so what will happen is autistic people will will run out of spoons, will run out of energy to keep pretending, and that to the completely fucking blind autistic people watching, that looks like regression.
Right.
But when it's really just it's like, someone ceasing a performance.
You became more autistic again, you're failing, you're taking steps backwards, and it's like, really, I just stopped trying to please your happy ass because I'm fucking tired.
I literally got fired from a job because I was talking to them about, I might need a therapy dog, because it was like a call center, and I don't actually have. Technically I have excellent hearing, but I have audio processing disorder, so a lot of speech comes garbled to me. And I was getting like really stressed because I had people screaming at me, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the job for me, But I was like stimming at my desk, and I was, going outside, walking around. I was pacing, and they were like, you're not a good fit. Just
you're not neurotypical enough for the position.
Pretty much, yeah. And that kind of, I was like, I was like already in the process of burning out, and it's been 3 years since I've had a job because I'm still recovering.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's not fun.
Because once you burn out, once you cross that threshold, it takes so long to get stable again.
Yeah. And like I've had to like explain to my husband, look, this is what's happening. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing that. I really need your support. Can you please, be understanding in this? He's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And, he kept to his word. And I'm nearly in a place where I can get a job again. Almost.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
It's been really fucking hard, but I haven't like denied myself like stims or sensory stuff or anything like that. So that's what's helping me get back on that track to go pretty much perform for the holistic world.
And so now that we know just exactly why Autism Speaks sucks so hard, tell us about some organizations that are doing stuff right.
Oh, wait, I didn't get to say the...
Oh, sorry, yeah, Tony, do your thing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was about to be like, I was holding it so nicely.
You're fine. Let's hear it.
Well, yeah, because the conversation moved on, but I was...
Right.
Okay, so there's this concept that I wanted to mention in some capacity on the show, which is the autism parent, or the autism sibling. And it's this concept that it's inherently dehumanizing. It's because it is based on the concept that autistic people can't have a voice for themselves. So there's this concept that a mother who has an autistic child is now a new breed of person called an autism mother. And she understands autism because she's close to it all the time. Or it's my brother has autism, therefore I'm an expert because I've been doing the things the therapist has asked me to do, and therefore I know everything. And it is absolutely, like, no disrespect meant to the parents and friends and family of autistic people who are doing right by their kids. But it is the most insulting, disgusting behavior. It's the equivalent of those allies are the most important part of the LGBT community because we help you guys get accepted by the rest of the world. And without us, you'd have nothing. That's the concept.
Yeah. A lot of our audience members are going to relate to it now that you tied it to that, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like the autism parents and family, they center the awareness thing around themselves instead of the actually autistic people. Like, I cannot count how many times I have started talking about, autism and how something is important, and they'll be like, well, I have an autistic child, and I say that that's not important. You're supposed to be doing this. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm autistic. You can't tell me what to do. I'm the one who's literally living this. And they're like, well, you're high functioning. And I'm like,
oh my God, I want to stab someone.
I wet myself yesterday. My husband has to make sure, like, watch me get food or bring me food, because otherwise I would starve to death. Like, it's a spectrum.
I hate functioning labels, but if I start on that, I will lose the thing that I wanted to bring up about Autism Speaks.
Okay, you go ahead. It's your turn.
So, there is a rather infamous early Autism Speaks commercial that is an excellent summary about everything that's wrong with the autism parent being the focused on narrative. everything that's wrong with Autism Speaks, and just a lot of disgusting things in the world.
Yes, I know what
And
you're going to talk about.
I feel like I should, for our listeners, put in a trigger warning, because this is going to be a graphic discussion involving suicide and child murder.
Yep.
In the point of the commercial is to display for the normal viewers what devastation having an autistic child can bring to a family. And there is sitting on a couch being interviewed. The mother is being interviewed next to her autistic daughter and allistic daughter. And she talks about, in front of these children, about how difficult the autistic daughter is, and this one particular drive home where she was considering killing herself and her child because it was so difficult and awful of a thing to do and such a burden to have this autistic child that the world would be better off if they were dead. And the only reason she didn't do it was the allistic child.
Yeah.
Jesus.
What the
fuck?
fucking...
Not
Oh my
only
God.
did she
Wow.
say that in front of her children, but that was broadcast on daytime TV. This was the face of what autism is. A lot of this whole vaccines cause autism, using plastic water bottles cause autism, fear-mongering that has captured us as a society is because of shit like that. And you'll get things where you'll Google it. There's been one today. No matter what day you are listening to this on, there's been one today. Google parent kills disabled child. It is an epidemic where parents will flat out murder their disabled neurodivergent child. Like whether it's drown them in the bath, suffocate them, poison them, refuse to feed them.
Yeah.
Every day there's a parent killing their disabled child.
There's the bleach enemas. There was a story that I had read that fucking broke my heart. This mother kept her 2 autistic twin boys locked in a closet, and it wasn't until child services intervened that they actually started getting the care. They put her in jail. And
because this is how abled allistic parents will frequently deal with their disabled kids. It's like they can't deal with the kid, so they'll lock the kid away and ignore it and or murder it. This is the core of the damage that Autism Speaks is doing, because it's not about making me, an autistic adult, feel bad. It's not even about me having a difficulty holding a job because my behaviors aren't considered professional. It's about children who are 5, 6, 7 being murdered by the people they should be able to trust most purely because they are considered that much of a burden.
And I imagine even if they had, parents who weren't quite that violent or extreme or neglectful, if, an autistic kid saw that commercial, they would feel so guilty about being such a burden on their family and their parents, and that I'm sure that has to feed into a lot of self-doubt and self-loathing for kids like that.
It really does. When I was little, I would twirl around, and I had this vocal stim, which was coughing. I would go like that. My stepdad would grab me, and he would be like, if you don't stop that, we're going to send you away. You're so awful to have around. And my mom would just stand there and be like, well, you better listen to him. And I'm like, wow, thanks, you people,
People I'm supposed to trust, threatening me for doing things that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I grew up hating myself and trying so very hard to copy the behaviors of everybody around me because I thought that was the right thing to do. I thought that, maybe if
I'm a good enough mimic, I can make up for how awful I inherently am.
Yeah, I thought that I'm trying not to cry right now.
I know.
I thought that my parents would love me. And my mom and I have a good relationship now, but my stepdad and I don't. So,
I have such an intimate sympathy with you on that, because when I was a child and my autism symptoms were making it difficult for me to function, my mother was told to help me. What she should do is essentially regiment my life, provide me the structure that I am absolutely desperate for. And my mother refused to do that because she said, quote unquote, she doesn't want to live her life as the bad guy or as the drill sergeant, and that she made a big deal about how what I would need to be a better, well-adjusted adult was a burden on her. And she refused to do it because she valued herself more than... She didn't want the bad that would come with that. And I learned and internalized so much shit from that. I don't have a good relationship with my mother right now. My relationship with her is entirely dependent on my ability to ignore everything she does, including misgendering me in front of me, on the phone, and everything she does, I have to ignore how it makes me feel and pretend it doesn't hurt me, because she has taught me, and in her behavior, she has demonstrated that if my needs require something of someone else, then it is too much to ask.
Yeah, the only reason I have a good relationship with my mother is because we don't talk about what happened. Elizabeth is not my real name. I have to use pretty much an alias in all of my advocacy stuff because she doesn't agree with it. She doesn't like it. She has made it very clear that she'll support her grandson because her grandson is amazing and wonderful, but she completely denies the autism for me. She completely denies my sexuality. I'm not even going to get into not telling her about, my gender nopeness. So
there's just a point where you have to, and it sucks because there's a lot of research that's indicating that we don't know what autism's true symptoms are, because so many people with autism, the vast majority of people with autism, oh God, you got me stuck on it, autistic people. The vast majority of autistic people also have CPTSD. Mm-hmm. Which is a very insidious, gross form of PTSD where your trauma is not a single incident, but an ongoing occurrence. It's what you get. The analogy is like PTSD is you were in a battle and it traumatized you. CPTSD is you were a prisoner of war for 6 years. And the thing is, a lot of symptoms of autism are the same as symptoms of CPTSD because it is traumatic to grow up with people who don't understand and who are trying to force you to be something that they're literally trying to force you to be something that you cannot be. And it goes on for years and years, and it traumatizes you and it leaves you fucked up. And it does leave you unable to function and gives you a list of triggers that are trauma triggers, but you display your trauma triggers in an autistic way. So it's like, oh, this is part of your autism. No, it's like, no, everything I do is autistic, but I'm also traumatized.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with, regular PTSD, because, I was, I don't want to say it, but, I was raped twice. But my therapist is like, no, you had a horrible childhood. You have, childhood PTSD. And she's pretty much been working with me on that. But anybody who asks me about the PTSD, I blame it on the rapes because I don't want to dive into that.
It's the easier explanation, and especially when you're dealing with autism and PTSD and all this comorbid shit, it's just so much easier to explain things the simple way, even if it's not true.
Yeah, it is.
So turning to maybe the more positive side of things, I have, and that's not to imply that all of that was bad. Like, this was meant to be a segment of one show, and I think it's going to be the entire show because the interviews ran way long. But I can't think of a.
Sorry.
But well, no. Here's the thing: I can't think of a thing that I want to cut out of this to edit.
Yeah,
it.
I was just thinking about that. Like, Callie, how are you going to fit this in? I was going to be so mad at you. This is going to be the episode.
So no, I'm fine. This is one of the most important conversations we've had on the show, I think. So I've heard quite a few people say that they're actually grateful for some of the things that autism gives them. So is this true for either of you? And can you give us some examples?
So much, yes. I am so happy that I'm autistic. I love it. It's such a positive. The things that aren't PTSD and traumas and like, yeah, okay, sometimes I have a meltdown because the sound is too loud. One time I freaked out to the point of nearly having to go to the hospital because the heater was clicking and nothing in my room was a perfect square. Like, that's... Yep. But that's just a thing that happens. And there's so much good shit that autism brings to me. Like, I am so happy that I'm autistic. It's so good. I love stimming. I love knowing everything about a thing. And I love telling somebody who doesn't know everything about a thing all this cool shit. And I love doing it for the 20th time. And I love doing it for the first time. I love taking in information that no one else is getting and turning around and making it seem like I have made money from my autism, a significant amount, because I learned how to read tarot cards. And I can pick up information that other people don't usually pick up through my autism. So I have scalped people out of a significant amount of money because I have convinced them I can see the future.
We do not endorse this here on the Gay Theist Manifesto, just to make that clear.
It paid for my college lunches when I was broke because my family had disowned me, if that makes it better.
No, not really. But I did get a tarot card too. I loved it.
It's so awesome. It's such a wonderful, positive thing in my life. And I have a collection of things I call like my autism superpowers that are things that I can do that no one else can do. And I can do it because I'm autistic. It's so great. And I love it. And that's what kills me the most, even more than just like the pure human suffering element. But it's taking something so good and positive and wonderful and turning it into something people hate and turning it into something that mothers want to murder their children over and turning it into a divisive thing purely because people won't say it's a positive thing. It's a good thing. Having an autistic child is a blessing because that kid is going to be amazing in a way that a neurotypical child wouldn't be able to be. And like, yeah, every single child is amazing and awesome. But autistic people are also amazing and awesome and a great thing to have in your life. And if you out there don't have an autistic friend, you really should try and get one because they're a great blessing to have. And they'll like, you don't want to watch Legendary Defender Voltron? Well, I'm going to sit you down and talk to you about it for 3 hours, and you're going to learn about your new favorite thing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And what about you, Elizabeth?
So besides loving my child so much, and him being autistic, and him being my entire world, and I could talk about him forever. Did I mention he knows 20 languages?
Which is so cool.
It is really fucking cool. He literally sat down and taught himself 20 languages, which is really weird. He knows like 80 digits of pi. He looks up concepts of infinity. He answers yes or no questions, which, by the way, that makes things a whole lot easier. Like, what's wrong? What are you doing? You know, he doesn't answer. Mm-hmm. He just kind of holds up his iPad. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But the best thing, or a really positive thing actually, is I don't know if any of y'all are like sex repulsed, but sex is really good.
That I understand that, but I'm trying to figure out how to articulate that to autistic people, because I know what you're trying to express, but I also know it's probably not going to get across. But sex is really great.
The sensations are like dialed up to like 11.
Which can be the worst possible thing on a dysphoria day.
But, yeah. Like that, those days where you're just like, ugh, I hate everything about myself, blah, blah, blah. But like on a really good day, all my husband has to do is like breathe on my neck, and I'm like, oh my God, please take me now. But yeah, the sensations are like, oh my God, they're so good.
Well, right, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about it being a sensory thing. So your body's more tuned to respond to that kind of sensory input. Is that why that is, you think?
Pretty much, yeah. Like
there's a fantastic stim.
Oh yes, it is. There are like parts of my body where they're like hyposensitive, where they don't really respond to stimuli. But there are parts of my body that it's like hypersensitive.
Yes,
I know that's the same thing, or like the opposite of hyposensitive, but like I'm really sensitive around like my arms and my legs and my neck, my back. You could literally like punch me in the back and I'd be like, what was that? Did somebody touch me? But
I broke my collarbone and didn't notice, which spared me as a child from the severe trauma of knowing your collarbone is broken.
Oh yeah.
And that's like something that people would go, oh, what a horrible thing to have happened to you. And I'm like, no, it was great.
I didn't feel a thing, or I didn't feel a lot. Yeah, my son doesn't really respond to touch or pain. Like the other day, I was working with some clay, and I use a razor to like a box cutter razor to cut the pieces because they gave me like a really shitty X-Acto knife in the.
I nearly cut my thumb off doing that once. I know exactly where this is going.
Yeah, and I gave him a little tiny piece of clay to play with because he likes to like grab things that I'm doing. You know, it's pretty much a kid thing. And
that's
he picks up the razor.
Child feature.
Yeah, he picks up the razor, and then he's like cutting the clay, and I'm like, oh my God, don't do that. And he like drops it, and he has like blood coming from his finger, and he looks at it and he goes, oh no, that's blood. Like literally like that. And I'm like, okay. So
he's probably learned you say when you see blood is, oh no, that's blood. But like he wasn't feeling it.
But what was really cute was he's looking at it and he goes, because he watches Doc McStuffins, and he goes, if you see blood, then ask a grown-up to put a bandage on it or to take you to the hospital to get stitches. And then he starts like hyperventilating because, oh my God, blood. But I was like, does it hurt? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, does it hurt your finger? And he just kind of goes, no. Like it was a question. Like he wasn't really sure. But yeah, he can't really pinpoint like where something hurts on his body. Whereas I know exactly what's hurting, and you need to stop. It needs to stop like right now.
Yeah, I will sit around for I'm on his end of things. I will sit around for a good 20 minutes trying to figure out what's like something vaguely feels like it might be wrong, and then I'll realize, oh, I stepped on a razor blade like 20 minutes ago.
Oh my God.
Womp womp.
That's
Right.
what occurred.
Yeah, no, I'm like, oh, the temperature went down 1 degree. This is the worst thing I've experienced all day.
Whereas the AC will go out and I won't notice, but I'll be throwing a temper tantrum and not know why.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like most of this episode has sort of been a treatise on this next question, but maybe we can boil it down a little bit.
Okay.
So talk to us about things that autistic folks should know about being better friends and allies to autistic people.
In the spirit of Autism Acceptance Month.
Right, exactly.
it boils down to don't be a dick about things that autistic people do that you don't do, and quit like, it's not normal. That's not a normal behavior. Just banish that, because to someone it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, you know what's not normal? Small talk. What the hell? Like, why do you need that? Just start
We are
talking.
all experiencing the weather in real time. There's literally no need to discuss it. This isn't
Oh my
normal.
God.
This is an obsession.
This is something, I am not autistic, but I can sympathize with that so hard, because just from like working in sales and being in customer service, I've gotten really good at that kind of talk.
Yeah.
But like, I have the
It's so
exact same
fake.
thoughts in my head when you're talking about this. Like, oh, you're in Ohio. Is it cold in Ohio? Why do you fucking care?
Yeah.
What does it matter? But especially when it's like two people in real time standing in real life in front of each other. Like, we are both experiencing, and you're not going to want to listen to how I experience the weather. Like, you're not looking for new information. You're not looking for me to tell you that I know that there's going to be rain in the next 10 minutes because I can see the undersides of leaves and because trees loosen their... You're not in for the info dump about botany.
Yeah.
So why are you
Right.
asking me about the weather?
Or the temperature dropped 3 degrees, so that's a sign that, you know, it might rain later, or, you know, something like that.
It's useless talk just to hear canned answers, and that sounds really disordered.
Yeah,
So
Right.
don't be a
Like-
dick and don't do small talk. That's what we've learned here today.
also
Well,
there is-
I think
there
when
is-
it comes back to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There is another thing. Remembering that autism is a spectrum. Like, just because, okay, so I have 3 books that I self-published, that I edited, and I did everything that you're supposed to do for it. I have a relationship that is super healthy that I've been in for 8 years. I am raising a child, you know, who's like literally the happiest thing that you will ever come across. But
That's all these great things that are functional, but you have a spectrum of shit that you can't do.
exactly, like last week, or was it a couple days ago? I have time agnosia. I don't know how much time has passed. I don't understand time. Time doesn't make sense to me.
That's what that is.
Yeah, I literally have to be constantly checking the time because I don't understand how time works. But
We've had like 3 that's what that is moments today.
Tony's had some breakthroughs today. I'm stoked.
hey, we can talk about this anytime because I will learn you some stuff.
Yes, I will absolutely connect you two once we're done here.
We got it. We're friends now.
Awesome. Yes, this is how Steelistics, this is how friendships are made. You don't have to years of friendship. Just start talking. Just get right into it. Get down and dirty.
I actually have friendship cards because this is how I make friends in the wild, and I need to write down my contact info so often that I just printed business cards.
Yeah, my I have this chart where my therapist gave me because I have an issue with getting to. I literally have it written down, but I scrolled up and I don't feel like scrolling up. It's like it is tiers of like friendship. Like level 1 is you just see each other. Level 2 is you've had a couple of times where you hung out in groups. Level 3 is
Autistic people have a concept of this?
yeah.
Your friendship is not based on how stoked you are about them alone?
Yeah, I know. It's really bizarre. Yeah, I was
Basically, the summary of what autistic people should do is talk to autistic people, because we will... It's very hard to give you a blanket rule of how to deal with us, especially when y'all don't tend to listen to the blanket rules of how to deal with us. And it's 50-50 whether the particular aspie you are having a conversation with will even be accurate for them. We're a very diverse group of people. It's almost like we're just like everyone else, except our brain is structured differently. Fancy.
Right.
So,
Well, that's something that I've worked on a lot. Like, when you have an interaction in a certain way with someone, and according to what are the quote, accepted behavioral norms, like, wow, that person was really unfriendly. But then, like, I think to myself, that isn't necessarily the case. Maybe they're just uncomfortable talking face to face with someone they don't know. Like,
maybe there was just a ticking noise in the room that you couldn't latch onto,
Exactly.
The mysterious ticking noise.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of it, like with anything else, is to just not make assumptions, right? Like, when you're talking to someone and they're not behaving in a way that is familiar to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like you. That doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. They just have a different experience of the world than you do. And different does not equal bad. And that, we should be more open and willing to discuss those things and understand that, sure, most people, I mean, if we're removing the moral attachment to the word normal, and we're saying what's normal is what happens 50% plus one of the time with no other connotation, what normal behavior is not necessarily good behavior. It's simply what happens most of the time. And that when things happen the other way, that's not automatically a bad thing. It doesn't have to be something to moralize over and to cry over and to be like, oh my gosh, this has to be fixed. We can simply say, this person has a different experience and a different way of going about things than I do, and why the hell should I care? Why should I have a problem with that? Like, does that make sense?
It does. It actually always used to baffle me that it's one of the symptoms of autism to be rigid and inflexible and not accept change or differences, when allistic people can't seem to accept that me not wanting to look at their eyes didn't mean I was being rude. Like, I'm not the inflexible one here.
Right.
No kidding.
And that's something I feel like if you want to successfully interface with the autistic community and autistic people, besides just talking to them and hashing it out, and live in our world for a minute, because that's what you're going to do. You walk into a room full of autistic people as a neurotypical, you're going to feel what we feel. Because you're going to be walking in there with no idea how any of this works, and you're going to mess up a lot, and people are going to get mad for inexplicable shit. And I have a hard time having too much sympathy for that, because that's my life. But that's what you got to do. Step out of your comfort zone. Get to know us, and listen to us, because I may be saying, it's autistic person, not person with autism. There's a very, very large subset of autistic people who hate what autism does to them and feel very differently and would probably leap on a way to be neurotypical because they personally value how neurotypical people have an ease in the world around them. There's a group of people who think completely different from me, and they're also autistic or with autism, right, as they prefer. And so it's sort of like asking how to get along with an autistic person is about as, or what to do to be a better ally for an autistic person is about as valid and easy to answer of a question as me asking, so Callie, what can I do to better get along with allistic people? And how can I be an ally to allistic trans people? Like, how do I be an ally to allism? It's not something that's easy to answer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I think, like all things, it just comes back to being open and understanding that different doesn't equal bad, and that you should expect difference, not that difference should be this thing that you see like, oh, whoa, that's weird and new. And when you encounter that kind of difference, just let's figure out how we interact, and I think that's valid. Like, to kind of draw the corollary in the way that I can sort of empathize with what you're saying is, there are lots of things that I actually like about being trans, about the social connections that it's made for me, the people that I've met through doing activism, that kind of thing, the journey that it took me on in figuring out who I was that I may not have taken otherwise, because I never would have had to think as deeply about who I am. Those are things that being trans has given me that I deeply appreciate and that I love, and that I think to myself, like, if I could go back and flip a switch and make myself not trans, you know what? I'm not sure I wouldn't do it. Despite all of the hard stuff, there are so many wonderful things that this has given me, and that I think, just like almost with any sort of difference, the difference isn't necessarily the problem. The difference is the way society interfaces with that difference. Obviously there are some things that are going to be maladaptive generally, but for the most part, it really has more to do with the way that the majority of people see you than the way you actually are. The way that people want to treat you differently and sort of push you out of your social circles because you don't fit. Those are the real problems. The real problem isn't the fact that you're different, or at least it shouldn't be.
Yes.
And so I think so I think that's something that on some level, people who are different in almost any way can at least sort of get the corollary with. The problem isn't who I am, the problem is who you see me to be, and how you treat me because of who I am. Like, I could get along just fine in life without all of the social, like, if all of that social stigma didn't exist, I could get along just fine in life, and none of this has to be a big deal.
Exactly.
Man, you listened the fuck out of us, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I have a high expectation of people when they say they want to be trans allies. I'm like, all right, let's fucking do this. You know what I mean?
And that's why we always ask this type of question on the show when it's someone who has an experience that we don't have, because we're so used to, trying to get cis people to listen to us and try to get, straight people to listen to us and whatever sort of minority group that we're a part of. So we always try to make the effort to, if someone has an experience that we don't, ask them, what do you want us to know? What do you want us to do to help you?
That's really just carry that throughout the rest of your life and you're good.
Right.
Good job.
Well, this has been an absolutely amazing discussion. Like I said, I started out as thinking about this as a 20 or 30 minute segment for the show, and then it's now been an hour and 15 minutes long.
This is autistic.
And I am.
You don't shut up.
And the thing is, I'm 100% good with that. Like I said, I think this is probably one of the most important conversations we've had on the show. I have learned so much that I didn't know before, and I mean, not that I was super confident that I knew a ton in the first place, but yeah, this has been super, super valuable. And that, my friends, is going to do it for this episode of the Gay Theist Manifesto. Definitely want to thank Tony and Elizabeth again for their time. This was an awesome discussion. As I said a couple of times, this was meant to be a segment and has now become the episode because it was that awesome. So I am really, really excited for this to go out there. You can find the show on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gay Theist Manifesto. You can email us at thegaytheistmanifesto@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter at GaytheistCallie. You can find the show on Twitter at The Gaytheists. And
if you want to send us your hate mail about how autistic is a slur against normal people and how this episode was autism supremacy and how autism is actually terrible, and yeah, do that. Also, friend me on Facebook, Ari Stillman. Email me, aristillman4@gmail.com. And if you run out of actually good podcasts to listen to, you can catch me on the SJW Circle Jerk, and now also on the Cis Are Getting Out of Hand with Marissa McCool.
If you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/The Gay Theist Manifesto, make a per episode donation to support the show. If that's not something you can do, that is totally okay. You can always head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. That helps us, the audience, get bigger, which is always good for the show. Before we go, I want you to know that if you're lost, you're hurting, you're scared, if you feel like no one cares and no one understands, you need to know there's a community out here that loves you, cares for you, knows that you're capable of amazing things and that you are worthy of love. If you're struggling, please don't be afraid to reach out. Until next time, friends, this is the Gay Theist Manifesto.